What is up, everyone? How y'all doing? What's up, Troll? What's up, Trollway? How you doing? Uh, Finally, one more day, and then the free agency tampering period's open, so you're gonna see a lot of moves tomorrow. I mean, we're seeing moves now with people re-signing. We'll definitely probably have news of a new Dolphin tomorrow. So gonna go over free agency, gonna go over the draft, typical stuff. I have some some things written down here that I definitely want to talk about, and then some options, guys that we could potentially target in free agency, and then like sort of what that means for the draft. Because I do think the Dolphins will go like in free agency. I think they're gonna try to target interior O line and then probably secondary guys. I think those are two of the biggest needs on the roster, and the needs will probably change by the time the draft rolls around. It seems like after the combine, even different targets could potentially be attacked. And we can talk about some of the news the Dolphins have had recently. Kader Kohou was tendered yesterday. So he was what's it called? It's called the right to first refusal tender. So he's getting paid around $3 million per year, but another team can offer him a contract, and if he signs it, the Dolphins have the right to either match it or let him go. So there's like a few different reasons to that. They decided not to do the one for $5 million, and that's one where like they would have to give up a second round pick to get him. They decided to take that risk, go for the $3 million. It's sort of just like a balance thing with them. But I do think getting Kader back is not a bad move. He's a guy would be his first year in the second system, second year in a row in the same system. He's had to play for 3 different defensive coordinators. He's played nickel, outside, so I definitely think that's solid stuff there. Hold on, let me just check something. But yeah, got Kader. Dolphins have, according to Over the Cap, Dolphins have a little over 25 million in cap space, which after the news they saved like 13 million ish from Armstead, and then they saved like around 15 million ish from the Bradley Chubb move. And so shout out those guys. Armstead, is still deciding whether he wants to play or not, so that number could potentially change if he does want to come back. And then Chubb, a lot of that stuff got moved to incentives, but like they brought down his number a lot, like his base salary number. And now the Dolphins still can create cap space in a way with restructures. If they restructure Tyreek, they can save $7 million. Restructure like Austin Jackson, they can also save another $7 million. Sealer and Jordan Brooks combined can save you around $11 million. They could always go for Tua as well. I've seen people saying like, don't restructure Tua. I don't think it really matters who you restructure. Like either way, you're moving this down the line debt wise. Most of those players anyways might not be there long term, like a Tyreek. So either way, it just sort of depends. I don't think it matters too much which specific player ends up being restructured, because either way, it still ends like the debt's debt no matter what. But that's kind of some of the news that have happened there. So they also brought back, they tendered Keon Smith and Cameron Good. Nothing too crazy. I think that was kind of expected. Good didn't really play at all last season because of the injury. Same with Keon Smith. But it feels like Greer mentioned Keon Smith in his end of the year press conference. So I think Keon Smith still has a chance. They both have a chance to make the roster, but they would be depth options. I was doing some stuff on Over the Cap and ended up with 40 McSillan by restructuring Sealer. Probably demands a raise. Brooks, Brewer, Jackson, Ingold. Yeah, there's definitely a way to create cap space, and they're at 25 right now. But they can definitely create a decent amount without even touching Tua if they don't want to. They could also still, without restructuring, they can still like cut or trade certain players as well, like post June 1st, some not. And they haven't designated anyone to like post June 1st, so I still think that's an option for some of these people. They could also extend Jonnu Smith as well. They could give Jonnu an extension, which would save some money. Nothing crazy. I think it's a couple mil, but those are just potential options. And and then there's guys that we're gonna look at. Let me find some lists here. I got this pulled up. There are some people that have been cut. Like Shaq Mason was cut from the Texans. He had a little bit of a down year. Like he definitely didn't play like his best year. I think Shaq Mason's 31. But I do think he's a good fit in Miami. He'd be someone I take a look at. He's also like, when people are released, they don't account for the comp pick formula. And we don't know if the Dolphins are going to consider the comp pick much this year. They did last year. Obviously, they didn't want to spend too big. But with what Javon Holland's going to get paid, maybe not affecting the comp picks could be something they're considering. So Shaq Mason will be one. He's getting released. 31, good scheme fit, would be an instant upgrade at guard, would be a short-term fix, which is sometimes what free agency is. Sometimes free agency is about fixing short-term problems. Another person we've seen mentioned a lot because the Dolphins are very interested in them is Jonathan Allen, the Washington Commanders defensive tackle. He's obviously a very good player, and he's definitely someone to get potentially consider, but I think he might be too expensive. I just think there's potentially other options that can maybe give you similar production that you maybe could get for cheaper. I've seen people mention a few other guys like CK Parrott on Twitter mentions Sebastian and Joseph Day. He might even be a better fit for what the Dolphins are going to do under Weaver, which I think is true and would probably be cheaper. So I think just for Jonathan Allen, for me, it comes down to what the price tag is. That's definitely something to consider. But he was released, so it wouldn't count against the comp pick formula. Hey, appreciate that, Ray. Will Johnson could be their protein since he will not work out machine and pro due to his hand and will hold that private workout. Will team be work? Yeah, I think teams will definitely have question marks with his injury because he missed a lot of games this past season. I do think there's a chance he's there at 13, but he could also be gone. I think when it comes down, if you want to talk the draft, I've seen a lot of people, a lot of mocks after the combine mock us Nick Emanwari at 13. Personally, I'm not a fan of that. I do think Emanwari is a good fit for Miami. I just think 13 is a reach. I've talked about it. And it seems like I've seen multiple mock drafts now having him at 13. If they were going to go safety, I would still prefer Starks. I know Emanwari tested better. I just think Starks is the better player. I would even there's some other people that I think once I get around to Kenneth Grant, that's probably when I would start maybe considering Emanwari in those types of players. And I wouldn't take Kenneth Grant really at 13 either. I would prefer to even take Jahad Campbell at 13, and he's not one of my top options. But yeah, that's kind of something that's very, very interesting when it comes to the draft talk. Dolphins are also not tendering Quentin Bell. I didn't mention that. I hope he gets paid. He actually was a pretty solid piece for the Dolphins last year as a depth guy, but the Dolphins don't necessarily need him back. I would probably, I understand going for if you're going to bring in an edge, probably going vet minimum, and I'm guessing Bell will probably get a little more than that. Thanks, Irvin. I appreciate it. Definitely gonna have film breakdowns out this week. So whenever it starts getting announced, the Dolphins have signed guys. I'm sure Monday. I think last year the Dolphins didn't sign anyone. I think on Monday last year. I think Anthony Walker surprisingly was the first guy that was reported we signed, and then on Tuesday, it was oh, they started signing guys like Brewer and all that. So once the Dolphins start it gets announced, I'm going to start, watching film on those guys and go really in depth, because I've started watching a little bit on free agent guys, but so many people get re-signed. Sometimes it feels like, a waste. So I usually just wait until after. Yeah, we can talk about some of the players. We've talked a lot about O-line, but there's options there. Some other guys that maybe we haven't talked about a ton. I think Evan Brown from the Cardinals. He's another Cardinals guard. I've seen, CK Parrott mention him a lot too now. He is a guy that is a better scheme fit. I believe he's 28. He's also stayed relatively healthy throughout his career. I think health is something the Dolphins should be considering when it comes to O-line, because their O-line has struggled to stay healthy, and he shouldn't break the bank. And I think that's kind of something they need on the offensive line. While they do need good players, they also need a lot of body, so quality and quantity. And I think he would be someone that could fight for a starting job potentially. And would probably be a pretty solid scheme fit. So he's a name to consider. And there's also just some older players out there as well that they could potentially sign if they wanted to go the Zietler route or Brunskill. Some other options. I saw I liked the Aaron Banks thing, but I saw people projecting him to get paid a lot. If Aaron Banks is getting paid a lot, San Francisco 49ers guard, by the way. Good scheme fit, obviously has the scheme, he understands the scheme because he played in it in for the Niners. But man, I saw some projecting him to get paid $18 million a year. If that's the case, then no thank you. I don't know if that's true, but if you look at some of these contracts, people are getting paid, man. like who was it like? But to be fair, these are based like Myles Garrett just got $40 million a year. That just got announced, which is he's the highest non-paid quarterback ever. But I will say this is something I think to keep in mind once these news starts coming out. Is don't overreact to the initial numbers. I think this is something people will get wrong. Is I would wait until like the details of how it's constructed come out, because a lot of times those like base value numbers that you see are a little misleading. It pretty much is always misleading. It's not sometimes like, you know, like even the Tua contract, like Tua's like it was like what, like 53 mil per year, but technically he's probably never going to actually make 53 million in a season, because by the time you get down to the bigger numbers, he's going to get restructured and all of that, or potentially, you know, released, whatever happens. So like I would wait to look at like the actual contract details before you overreact, because sometimes, you know, with the guaranteed numbers, how like where it's structured potentially each year, is there, you know, void years put on the back end. That's something that definitely plays a part with free agency. And I definitely don't consider myself like a contract expert, but that's why I try not to like overreact on it initially and wait till people who are smarter than me can, you know, tell me exactly what's going on. Jedrick Wills, yeah. I just know I would have to watch Jedrick Wills more. I just know he's really struggled for the Browns, and I don't know if he could play guard. That one, I don't know. I really don't. If he was a cheap option, maybe you throw something at it to like potentially like it would be easier to play in the Dolphin system. But there's options, like there's some injured options in the O-line class, like James Daniels, Will Fries. I wonder if we're going to see them get re-signed at all today. I think Will Fries has a chance of getting re-signed by the Indianapolis Colts. I think Daniels is an interesting one because he is coming off that injury, and I don't know if he'll get signed right away. That might be even one that people potentially wait on, but who knows? I did see someone report that like Jeremy Chin got re-signed, the safety, or he's going to bank either Mac Hollins, Lil Jordan Humphrey, even, you know, going after a guy like De'Ami Brown. Just potential interesting options there at receiver. I think they can add like a wide receiver 3 and 4 like that I wouldn't be mad about. Definitely don't need to add like a high end receiver though. That's not something they need to do in free agency. Yeah, Ben Bredesen, I don't know how to say his last name, but yeah, Bredesen's not a horrible option to add to the mix. He'll probably be fairly cheap, and he would probably be a guy that could potentially, like, I don't even know if he would start, but like he would fight for a starting role depending on who else you would add. But yeah, what is this telling me? YouTube Studio. Okay. But yeah, that's kind of safety. Tight end. Okay, Michael Mayer. I haven't talked a ton about. I don't think I've talked about this on stream yet. But Michael Mayer is available for trade apparently, according to reports. The Raiders tight end. There's a lot of people on the trade block, and I think Mayer is like the only one that I would actually seriously consider, especially if it's a day 3 pick. If it's a day 3 pick, I would be all over that. I think he is like the perfect complement to Jonnu Smith. He would be your wide tight end. He would play significant snaps. He'd be a huge upgrade over what you had last year. And then I think he would still be on a rookie contract, and he would be better than any tight end you're getting in this class for a day 3 pick. Like in this class, he would probably be like, you know, in mix for like tight end 3, 4, 5. So if there was one trade I would make, yes, that would be one that I would definitely consider going after. There's some other tight ends like John Bates, Washington Commanders tight end. He's a blocker. There's some other interesting names. Ross Dwelly is from the Niners. He has scheme experience. Same with Sauber, who the Dolphins have brought in before. I wonder if they go after like Mo Alley Cox. I think that's potential for that. Big body guy that has what's it called? Huge wingspan. I think he's older, but he's got like a huge frame. I think he's like 6'7". I think he's was a former basketball player, can block on the move, which the Dolphins, you know, obviously do a decent amount. That's a interesting option if they wanted to go in that. I've seen Luke Farrell. He's a younger guy too. He's 27, so not super old. He played for the Jaguars. Remember when I watched Jacksonville? He was an intriguing guy because I always thought he like made just solid plays for them, but they're going to move on because they drafted Brendan Strange in the second round not that long ago. And I think he could be like, and these are like tight ends. Most of these tight ends are like guys who would be like your second or third. And this wouldn't take you away from taking tight end in the draft either. I think tight end's one of those positions where like the Dolphins kind of need 3 guys because last year they played 3 guys a lot. And like Julian Hill and Durham Smythe both played a lot of snaps. And obviously Johnny Smith played a lot of snaps. And they're all asked to like different skill sets. So the Dolphins do kind of need like 2 wide tight ends potentially, unless they want to roll out there with Julian Hill again. Then some other guys that might get paid. I wouldn't be surprised to see like, Will Fries you mentioned. Jamien Sherwood, the linebacker from the Jets. Would not be surprised to see him get paid at all. Tommy Tremble re-signed, Robbie. He re-signed with the Panthers. He would have been an option, though. He would have definitely been an option. I had him written down, but he re-signed. I also think Quinn Morris, the Bills tight end, he's also like a special teams guy. He blocked for them. He could be someone that is considered. So there's some blockers out there that it could be like your tight end 2 or 3. Morris would be more of like a tight end 3. Yeah, I had him like written down. Where is this? Okay. That's kind of the tight ends. I think there's some other ones that are free agents. Like I think Jawan Johnson's a free agent, the Saints tight end. That would be intriguing. He's got some juice to him. I don't see the Dolphins going big at the running back position. But I do think they could sign, like, I've seen a lot of people mention Elijah Mitchell, the Niners running back, because he was there. McDaniel was there when they drafted him, and Elijah Mitchell has struggled with some injuries. I wouldn't mind bringing Mitchell in if he was super cheap, and he was, like, going to be, like, fighting for, like, running back 3/4 spot, because he does fit the scheme. He obviously has juice. As long as it doesn't, like, hinder you from bringing in, like, a bigger body guy that can still beat your short yardage back. But I do think that there's some options. Not sure who else. I think there's some other free agents like Dobbins, but I wouldn't go. Dobbins and Mitchell's both have pretty extensive injury histories, but like Dobbins has missed a lot of time. I think last year was like the first time he actually at least relatively stay healthy. I've not talked about Metcalf. I saw earlier today that they are they're trying to trade for like a second round pick. They like went down to like a second rounder. But I don't think I've seen some people say like the Dolphins should trade Tyreek and go after Metcalf or just trade for them straight up. And I don't think that's like the worst idea. You're getting younger, and he would be probably a better complement of skill sets if you consider like Metcalf and Waddle together because they're different players. He could also still spread the field so I think it would depend, but it's not one that like I'm trying to force to do because I do think the Dolphins need to build out. Because one, you would have to pay him a lot of money, and then you also still would have to like pay Tyreek, depending on if people would take on his contract if you traded him. It would just be a lot of money put into the receiver position that like I feel like you still need to build out the rest of your roster. So I'm not against Metcalf, but I just don't know if it makes sense overall. Waddle for DK? I wouldn't do that either. I would rather do Tyreek for DK. Because Tyreek, I don't think Tyreek's going to be here long term. I think Waddle will be here long term. Yeah. Saints are just committed to the salary cap. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Saints are in a horrible spot. Fant? Are you talking about Noah Fant? That's not a horrible option. He's not a great blocker, though. Nate Landman? I actually don't know too much about Landman, so. There's some players that I'm sure the Dolphins are going to sign and be like, oh, I have either not watched them at all or I haven't watched them in a long time, and then I'll have to, go and find that. But those are just some options. There's also quarterbacks, too. I think they're going to be, I think interior O-line, for sure they're going to be in that market. I think secondary, corner, and safety. And then probably veteran QB. Then the other ones, they're going to sprinkle. They have needs at nearly every position, so I think they're going to sprinkle in. But I think if they're actually going to spend at least decent, I don't think they're going to spend crazy money at any spot. But if they're going to spend decent money, I think it'll be interior line, secondary, and then backup quarterback. You usually have to pay at least a little bit, a little chunk for a decent backup quarterback, which they could go after. There's a handful of guys. I'm not sure who they're going to be interested in. maybe Mariota, Garoppolo. Those are guys that I could potentially see them going after. I know Minshew is getting released. There's other names out there if they want to go like higher, but some of those guys aren't the greatest scheme fits, like Fields, Russell Wilson. Would Richie Grant? Yeah, I'll get to safety in a second. Let me see. Where's the safeties I got? You know what's crazy? Okay, so in this class, I actually remember this safety class because Javon Holland, Trevin Meerig, and Richie Grant. I think they all win the second round, right, of that same class for the safeties. The Dolphins obviously preferred Holland because they took Holland before those two. And I think Holland's is probably going to get paid more than both of them. I could see them going after some of these guys. There's some interesting names here. If they want to go after, maybe there's some aging veterans like Justin Simmons, Quandre Diggs. Then there's some guys who are like, probably going into like their second contract that are still, relatively young, but they might get paid is like Merrick from the Raiders. He's probably going to get paid a decent amount, but he is a safety that like I would not be mad if they went after him if he wasn't crazy expensive. I think Jeremy Chin is getting re-signed by Washington. I'm pretty sure. They could go after like an Andre Cisco. He's like a deep middle of the field for safety. There's Talanoa Hufanga, the Niners safety, has the injury history, but I do think he would be a good scheme fit. Darius Washington from the Ravens had a really good year. He might be, I wonder if he's restricted free agent because I think he was a UDFA, so he might be restricted. I'd have to look that up. And then there were some people who were cut, like Rayshawn Jenkins from Seattle. So that would be, they come from a very similar scheme. I think anyone from Seattle that's kind of on the waiver because they have McDonald over there, and I think like linebacker they have Ernest Jones. Ernest Jones was someone they traded for. That could be someone I could see them potentially showing interest in. Some of these people are like older, like Justin Simmons is older, Rayshawn Jenkins is older. Trying to find some other names in here potentially. Von Bell, another name. Cameron Bynum, that's an interesting one. I wonder what Bynum's going to get paid. He's from the Vikings, and I liked him coming out of Cal, and he's 26 years old. Yeah, Darius Washington is a restricted free agent. I don't know if they've tendered him or not. Yeah, I think Hufanga would probably be fairly affordable because of the injuries. But there's always a risk going after those injured players. Okay, sorry. Let me see. Brendan Scherf. We get Will Fries or Dalton. Yeah. Scherf would be if they wanted to go for like the aging veteran that maybe could potentially be cheaper, but I'm not sure. Take on Minshew. I don't think it would be the worst option for veteran QB. I think it would depend on the price. Like if it wasn't that expensive, like I would be down for it. Like there's definitely worse veteran options, and he's not the worst scheme fit, but I've never been the biggest Minshew fan. Zacchaeus, I mean, yeah, they for depth potentially. Where do I see Amos going? Are you talking about Trey Amos? Or are you talking about someone else? Boom, boom. Isn't Minshew going to want to be a starter? I mean, he might realize that. I think Minshew's at the point where I don't think he's going to get a starting job. At least that's kind of what I'm thinking. There's also some people, the Dolphins potential. I've seen some reports with Dolphins who they could re-sign. Like they obviously did the Chubb and Armstead thing. I think there's re-sign potential for Terrell Dodson. We talked about that. Potential, third linebacker would be my preference. He did good for the Dolphins last season. He has that experience now within the scheme. He even played with it in Seattle. Good cover guy. They could bring back guys like Benito Jones, Deshaun Hand, defensive line depth. Dolphins don't have a ton of D linemen there, and they were pretty solid for you as rotational players. Yeah. CB miss, yeah. I do think Trey almost is a fit for Miami. I think he probably has like the size, length, athleticism that they kind of look for at that position, and he's also got like I think like coverage versatility. Like he's played in a lot of zone and man. Like I think he's got good man. Like he's got the length and athleticism and feel to play man. And I also think he has zone instincts. I actually think like cover 3, like he looked very comfortable playing cover 3, and the Dolphins' most ranked coverage was cover 3. Good ball skills. So that would be like a potential day 2 options if the Dolphins wanted to go corner on day 2. But yeah, I really would like to, like, for the Dolphins free, there's not a lot of Dolphins free agents I think should be brought back. But I think Dotson is one I would like. Calais, it depends if he still wants to play. Obviously, they did the Kohou thing. I think Deshaun Hand and Benito Jones are definitely potentials. Seems like Quinn Bell's gone. I wouldn't bring back Ogba. I wouldn't bring back Eichenberg. Then there's players like, there's the other guards, Isaiah Wynn, Robert Jones. I think that depends on who you sign in free agency. I wouldn't mind bringing them back, but they would be depth players. And then I also wouldn't mind bringing back Elijah Campbell because you need safety bodies, and he's a good special teams player. Those are just some of the options I like. Yeah. And then for more like O linemen, I think, we talked about some of them. Like I was talking about James Daniels and Evan Brown earlier. I kind of like Patrick McCarry because he's played like a lot for the Ravens. And he's played everywhere. Like he played a lot of tackle and he's played a lot of guard. I even think he's played center as well. And he looked better, I think, at guard for the Ravens. The Dolphins obviously need guard help, but also just that positional versatility is huge. He's still 27, and I believe he's stayed relatively healthy. And I think the Dolphins kind of need that at that spot. And that's kind of like for guard. And if the Dolphins want to go for like backup swing tackle, potentially like a Matt Pryor. You see similarities between Ogba and the DN for UCLA? You're talking about where's his name? Oladejo? Not really. I think Ogba is a little more of like, they both have like versatility. Ogba is like a little, more of that big defensive end type. That can even like would set the edge, play the run. They do. I will say they both have like, they're both, most of their most effective move pass rushing is the same. They both like to hit the cross chop. So I can see that sort of similarity. But Oladejo has linebacker versatility. Like he's played off ball in the past, and he's kind of new to that DN position. He's a little more athletic. He can drop into coverage. So a little different in that sort of thing. I think, I do like Oladejo, though, from UCLA. I like all the UCLA sort of like linebackers and DNs that they have out there. And he's a huge competitor, too, like very competitive guy. Definitely someone I wouldn't mind adding to the group. I think Revel has a higher ceiling than Johnson. Johnson maybe has a higher floor. Yeah, I could see that. I think that's probably fair. I think both are, top 10 players in the class anyway, so. Get James and Scherf on the cheap, yeah. I'm just not sure if Scherf is gonna be cheap, Kind of the only problem. Where's this? Yeah. But there is other guard options. Like some of these guys are going to be expensive, but I do like potentially either of the Cardinals guards, Evan Brown or Will Hernandez. Patrick McCarr, we talked about. Aaron Banks, if he's as expensive as they're projecting, then no thanks. But cheaper than that, I would be down. Tevin Jenkins, Will Fries, and these are the guys that aren't like super old either. But personally, I wouldn't go after guys like Mekhi Becton. I think he's going to get overpaid, and he's not a good scheme fit. But yeah, Dolphins currently have 25 million cap space. They can create a lot more with restructures. We've talked about some of the restructures that they can do. There's the options. The main options are like Tua, Tyreek, Jackson, Sealer, Jordan Brooks. Yeah, there's a lot of guard options. There really is. There's D tackle options as well. Some of these guys are going to get paid, but like we talked about Jonathan Allen, Milton Williams, I don't think the Dolphins will go after. Very good player, but he's going to get a lot of money. Draymond Jones from Seattle, he kind of underachieved and didn't live up to what they paid him, but maybe, that gets him on a cheaper contract and you can get more out of him for, cheaper, like the value could be better at least. Tershawn Wharton is a potential guy from the Chiefs who I think will probably get paid because I think he had a decent stats for them. Poona Ford, another decent name. Sebastian Joseph Day, I think he's a good scheme fit. Just some D lineman options. I think the Dolphins are going to sign D line. I don't know if they're going to go like crazy, like and spend huge at D line. I don't think they necessarily need to because I've talked about it in the past. I think if there's one position Weaver can scheme the most help for, it is defensive tackle. Wow. Let's see. Okay. Lighting candles for Fries, yeah. Fries would not be a bad one. I feel like he could still get re-signed before it even opens up, but he would be a good fit. How do you feel about some of the later round off-ball linebacker options? Bassa, Kaiser, or Buchanan. I actually like all three of those on day 3. Those are some of my favorite day 3 options at linebacker. I think Jeffrey Bassa, former safety from Oregon, he's an intriguing option. Obviously, some speed, and I think he plays tough for not being the biggest guy. Like, definitely has the speed, and I've seen him play like pretty good in coverage and man-to-man. I think he maybe he's a tick late with his processing, I think, versus the run. But I've seen him take on blocks, stay square, play strength, stack, shed. So I do like him as a potential late run option. Buchanan, he's someone I plan on making a video on, but very athletic, versatile. I've seen him line up off the edge. He's another intriguing day. There's a lot of I like Craig Woodson, the Cal safety. And the Dolphins drafted a Cal safety last year, so maybe they were looking at some of these Cal guys and have them on their radar. And then Kaiser is another one who I think is interesting. Leader for that Notre Dame defense, makes some good plays versus the run. I actually think he's even a little, like, he's not the most like explosive guy, but I actually think he moved more fluid in coverage than I expected, and he understands like where he needs to be in coverage. Like, he's a smart player. Yeah. Julian Hill, yeah. I think they're gonna keep Julian Hill. There's no reason to cut Julian Hill right now. It's not like that saves you any money, and you're like, you don't have any really people in that room anyways, other than Jonnu. Like, you don't have any other wide tight ends, so like you're keeping him now, but you're hoping to add to that room for sure, free agency and the draft, and make him like fight for a roster spot. Ends up right, thoughts on Campbell next to Brooks to how it would look. Jackson, and I talked about it. I think out of sort of like the underrated options at pick 13, if I had to make like a sleeper list at 13, that I would like. Like, you know, we've talked a lot about O-line and like Tyler Warren and then some of the corners. Like, one of my favorite sleeper options would be Jahad Campbell. I think versatile. Like, he also can line up off the edge. Like, he has good edge reps. Let me actually pull up my notes on Campbell, because I actually do think he is like a top 15-ish player in this class. And he can, I still even think like there's certain areas where I think he can still even get better from a processing perspective, but good enough. I think he's got good communication pre-snap. He stays square to line of scrimmage, reads pulling guards, very good athlete. Like, he can match and carry vertically, can spot, drop in zone, gain depth. He has the range. He communicates very well, good change of direction, good closing speed. He can blitz either off the edge or even, you know, just line him up in the A gap, blitz him as a linebacker. He can play like Mike or Will. He's a full 3-down player. I do think he could be better like stacking and shedding, but that range is super special. So I do like Campbell. And then, yeah, I'm a big Jackson Haas fan. If the Dolphins want to get a blocking tight end, I love Haas. I think he's the best of the blocking group. I've started watching more tight ends that I think are pretty good. Maybe not the best blockers, but there's potential there, like Jalen Conyers. Yeah, I just made a video on Jalen Conyers. It's members only right now, but yeah, I do like Conyers. Go Will Fries and get Kelvin Banks. Personally, I don't really love Kelvin Banks at 13. And I really don't think the Dolphins are going to go O-line in the first round. It just doesn't feel like this is the class for it. Like, the value is going to be great at 13. And the Dolphins, I don't think, value guard enough to take it in the first round. I think they're going to more try to fill guard in free agency. Just what my gut tells me. Yeah. Oh, I agree. I actually think they would probably lean Imanwari, but I would lean Campbell over Imanwari for sure. Why? I just think for if you're asking about why I don't like Banks, for me, I think he's a little bit raw. I do think he's like a solid player. I just have Banks ranked in like the 20s. So to me, it's like a reach to take him at 13 anyways when there's better options. And I think him going to Miami would be a good thing for him for sure, because they actually did run a similar offense with like how they did like their pass sets and stuff. Like, they made life easy on the Texas offensive line. And also, I think I really do I really value balance. Balance is one of the most important things I think an offensive lineman can have. And I think balance might be Banks's worst trait. Like, he ends up on the ground far too often for my liking. He's explosive though, but I wish he had more balance, and I wish he played with a little more flexibility in his lower half. That's why I'm a little bit lower on Banks. Where do you see Jalen Walker going? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Walker's probably the toughest guy to project, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's even gone before the Dolphins pick at 13. Why is Ty Robinson so undervalued? Well, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised after how he tested if he goes a little bit higher. Where's my Ty Robinson notes? But I think he's got he's a good linear athlete for sure. He's definitely got a nice first step. Obviously, good length, can be disruptive. I do think he plays tall. That's like probably my biggest problem with him. Is he plays tall, and obviously when you play tall, that puts you in a very tough spot a lot of times. But yeah. How do you like Tate Ratledge or Donovan Jackson? Both very good players. I'll say this. I mean, this might be a hot take, but I like Donovan Jackson more than Tyler Booker at guard, and Donovan Jackson can also play tackle. And I think, and Tate Ratledge is going to be a good player because he got injured last year. And pre-injury, his film is very good. Post-injury, it's not quite as good, but I do think he's a smart player. And he tested well too, which is huge for him. I think that actually puts him more on the radar for Miami with how he tested. And his film's just really good. But I really like Donovan Jackson. So would you go Will Johnson or Jalen Walker? Because I think those would be better. At 13, yeah, I would. Will Johnson and Jalen Walker would both be guys I consider at 13. Just depends who else is on the board. But they would go over some other options. Yeah. Honestly, I really think Donovan Jackson's going to go first round. I don't know where in the first round, but my gut feelings he goes first. And like, if you saw him in the drills at the combine, man, like he looks so smooth. Yeah, I'm excited for tomorrow. I might go live tomorrow, like when the tampering period opens, just to see like maybe we see a potential signing or like agreed to be signed, which is the same thing. While we go live. I'm looking. Looks like nothing has happened since I've gone live anyways with like other teams either. Because right before I went live, Myles Garrett got the second highest contract ever. I'd say in the 20s. Yeah, probably in the 20s. That's what I would guess. Donovan Jackson would definitely be a trade down option. I just don't mention trade down a lot. Just because when it comes, it's just so hard to predict. Like, and it just very rarely happens anyways for Miami. And it always takes like another, team to actually want to trade. But yeah. And the reason I don't know if teams will want to trade up in this draft either. Yeah, I don't think the Dolphins will be on Tyler Booker. I don't think Tyler Booker's a good fit for Miami. I remember the tampering. Yeah, last year I'm pretty sure it was like after a few minutes it was like DeAndre Swift signed with the Bears, which I don't know why that was their first signing, but it was. Yeah, well, we'll see what the Dolphins do. I think they're gonna kind of probably, now that they have money, like they have about 25 mil in cap space, I think they're probably gonna wait a little bit, right? Wait to like make more moves to create money, because they can create more money. We know they can create a decent amount more money. I think they're gonna wait until they like have some agreed upon signings, and then be like, okay, now we need to potentially restructure or extend, or who maybe we have to post June 1st cut some people. But there's a lot of ways there. Let me see what else I got. Also, I want to mention some players that I would avoid, because one, I don't think they're good value for where Miami is picking, and two, there's character concerns and like off-field stuff. I would say James Pierce and Walter Nolan. I've seen some people mention them at 13 for the Dolphins. Personally, I think there's question marks with their film, and I've also heard character concerns with both of them, so no thanks. Mike Green, and then also Maxwell Hairston, like, I'm not gonna, like, there's some like, off-field stuff with them that I'm just like, no thanks. Good talents, but like, I can just find other players that don't have this off-field stuff. Also, I don't think I mentioned this on the stream, but Gunnar Helm, he had that really bad combine, and I'm a big Gunnar Helm fan, so I got to bring it up. But he was injured like pretty badly. He got hurt before he even ran his first 40. Like, he sprained his ankle, and it looked bad. So the fact that he even went out there, and like the fact that he even had like his what's it called? The shuttle drills, like the fact that his shuttle drills were like slightly above average with his ankle was actually insane. So I think that will definitely, probably help some teams with their mind with him, because I always thought I didn't think he was going to be an elite athlete on film, like test like an elite athlete, but I thought he was going to test like solid. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if they need it, I would consider restructuring to it, because I've seen people be like, don't restructure to it. That means you can't get rid of him. With the restructuring, I think, I think CK Parrott was the one who mentioned on Twitter, because he understands the cap stuff more than me. Let me see if I can find what he was saying. Yeah, he said basically when it comes, like, it's just debt pushed down the line either way. Like, it's going to be pushed out, like, no matter who you restructure, it becomes debt down the line, like how you look at it. But you're looking at the restructures of who will be on this team long term, because like Chubb will probably not be on this team past this season, and they did the potential restructure with him. Tua actually has a chance of being on the team past the season, so restructuring him might not be the worst thing in the world. I think you're trying to restructure people who have the chance of being here a little bit long term. But if they're all like in the same of like, oh, they might be gone next season, does it really matter who you restructure? If you're going to restructure someone, either way, it's just debt pushed down the line. Yeah, that definitely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, even if you're not the biggest Helm fan, like that was still a crazy like I knew there had to be something. Had to be something with that. Ryder, what's up? What is your highest you would draft these guys you mentioned? You have character issues, or would you avoid them at all costs? Personally, I don't think it depends on what the character concern actually is. And it is tough from the outside because we don't get to meet these players, and sometimes, some of the stuff gets overblown. So I think if it's like super serious, like the off-field stuff where like they're doing like nasty shit, like I'm probably avoiding them as much as possible. The character concerns were like maybe they're a little immature, like maybe that pushes them down a little bit, but I don't think it makes them undraftable or anything. It just depends value wise. Like if you get to a spot in the draft where like, oh, this player is clearly the best player, like way better than everyone else, then I don't mind taking a shot, especially like early day 3 with some of those players. But I don't think any of those players will fall that far. Yeah. I actually don't think Chubb will. I think, yeah, Tyreek will be gone. I don't think Chubb will be here next year. I mean, I think he's going to play this next season, but I don't think he'll be the year after that. Yeah, Tyreek is probably one I would avoid. Probably the most. But you still can do Austin Jackson, Zach Sealer, Jordan Brooks. And that's 755. And those are guys that I see being here past, another season. You could even extend some of these people, like Johnny Smith we talked about, you can extend. Yeah. Then we go. What else did I have to talk about? Got that. I don't know what that is. Okay, out of there. Man, some of these guys, some of the numbers I've seen these people projected are insane. Like the Edge from the Colts. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I've seen him projected a lot. I'm like, and he hasn't done anything too crazy in his career. But I've seen a lot of people hyping up Jamie Sherwood, the Jets linebacker. He almost feels like what Jordan Brooks was last year. I saw people hyping him up, like all the film people, like hyping him up, and then end up working out for the Dolphins. Sherwood would be someone I would be interested in. But I do think he's going to get paid. But I do like players like Cameron Bynum. There's also some injured players out there, like, that you could take a chance on, like Asante Samuel Jr. if you wanted to add like an injured guy that's potentially could be cheaper. I did see Brandon Thorn. Brandon Thorn, he's a big O-line guy. Like he has very good like offensive line breakdowns. He talked about like his favorite O-line fits. And the one that he put for the Dolphins was Shaq Mason, who we talked about a little bit earlier, from the Texans. And I do think Shaq Mason would be a good fit. And he wouldn't count against the comp pick formula if they are going in that direction again this year. Would you bring back Raekwon Davis? Probably not. I was never a big Raekwon Davis fan, and I don't think he's the best fit for this scheme. But I mean, I guess if he was like super cheap, I'm not against it. But I was never a huge fan of Raekwon. I would rather bring back like Deshaun Hand and Daniel Jones and stuff like that. I think Chubb has a better chance of being in the roster in 2026 than Ramsey. I don't think. I mean, I could see both being gone, but I think Ramsey has a better chance, especially because there's no one in the corner room really at all, and the edge room. You know, you have younger guys there, and you know Chubb is still coming off an injury, and I don't think they're going to want to pay him when they have to pay Phillips potentially. Jordan Brooks had a PFF, so according to them, he was sub. Did you see that in the film? Oh yeah, Irving. That was probably the biggest shock to me was when I read, like, because sometimes you just see the PFF grades. I don't put any stock into PFF, but sometimes when you're like going through Twitter, like the PFF grades just pop up, and I remember seeing that when we signed Jordan Brooks, and then I watched film and I'm like, Jordan Brooks is not bad in coverage, but I've learned PFF only grades linebackers. They only grade linebackers coverage grades on targets, which is really weird to me. So like the plays where they drop back and maybe have a good coverage rep, but they're not targeted, that doesn't count as a positive play. And usually when linebackers get targeted, it's like it's usually a completion because that's like an easy completion over the middle of the field. Sometimes it's even zone. It might not even be their responsibility, like main responsibility. So I really don't put too much stock into PFF, and I especially don't put stock into their coverage grades for linebackers because it's a very flawed system. Because I remember being like, dude, Seahawks fans were like, he's horrible in coverage. And I watched the film, I'm like, I wouldn't say he's great, but he's definitely not bad. Ramsey, yeah, and that's another thing with Ramsey. He could eventually move to safety. All right, let me see what you guys are saying. Raekwon has having lower body health issue. Yeah, no. Good video on the William & Mary kid, very athletic. Is it me or does he look like he just slow feet and pass when he just clips he should? Yeah, I do think I talked about it a little bit in the video, Alex. I think he's a little like rigid in pass pro. I think it's not that he has slow feet. Like I think he can be he obviously is very athletic and can be better. I think it's just an efficiency thing. I think he has to work on like technique in that area. And also like they did a lot of like jump setting. So he didn't always have to get like into his vertical set. But there were reps where I'm like, oh, he really got out of his stance there. It's just he didn't do it a ton because of like, I think it was a scheme thing. And also I think a technical issue at times for him. And also he was just such a clear, better talent than everyone on the field that maybe he didn't feel like he needed to fly out of his stance at times. But I do agree that there were some pass protection things with him that he could improve upon. Did you see Kyle Crabb's blueprint? If so, what are your thoughts? I don't think I saw it, Robbie. You can let me know what it is, and or like at least a base of what it is. Would you bring back Mac Hollins? He's one of there's big body receivers I would consider bringing back. Hollins is one of them. There's players like there's Hollins. That's not a bad shout. Nick Westbrook-Akine from the Titans. He's a good shout. Little Jordan Humphrey for a cheaper option. Noah Brown, who's a blocker and a bigger body. Maybe even Darius Slayton. I guess I could see them being interested in. If we bring back only one between Benito or Hand, who do you take? Oof. That's tough, because I think Hand offers more versatility, but Benito plays like as a nose and a one tech, like as a nose, and you don't really have any other nose. I think if you can get another nose, I would guess I'd take back Hand. But if you can't find a nose, then Benito, because Dolphins don't really have that. Phillips is a goner for sure. I mean, it depends if he stays healthy. I really like Phil. I think when Phillips is healthy, like I think he's one of the best players on the team. So I'm just hoping he can stay healthy. There's no chance the front office keeps Phillips over Chubb. I think you'll be surprised, Skunk Ape. Phillips is cheaper, and they both have an injury history. If Chubb didn't have the injury thing, I could see that, but they both have injuries. And they're both going to want money. I think it just depends. Yeah. PFF data is very good. Thoughts on moving back to the late teen and drafting Jahad Campbell? I think if you want Jahad Campbell, you probably won't be able to trade back too much. Because I think he'll probably go pretty quickly after the Dolphins pick if they didn't take him at 13. Christmas, yeah. He has us taking Jahad Campbell in the first. Who, Krabs did? Yeah, I'm not against. I don't like, as I've talked about it, like that's one that I definitely would warm up to, especially depending on how that goes, how free agency goes too. Yeah. The reason I think Phillips just has a better chance is because he has a chance of being a long-term option, while I don't think Chubb would be considered a long-term option for the team. I think it really depends. Like, he has to stay healthy, and then he also has to like not get like priced out, you know? But if he does stay healthy, there's a decent chance he could get priced out because Phillips was playing dominant. Before Phillips got hurt in the 2023 season, he was the Dolphins' best defensive player. Like, he was dominating before he... Was he the Achilles one? He tore his Achilles and Chubb was the ACL, right? I always get it mixed up. Yeah. I know Phillips has a worse injury history from college, but they both have recent injury history that's very similar, and both haven't played much in the last 2 seasons. And Chubb is, you know, how old's Bradley Chubb? And by the time we're done with this season, he'll probably be in his 30s, right? I don't know his exact age, but pretty sure Phillips is around 25. And Chubb's 28 right now, will be 29 during this season. So yeah, next year he'll be 30 for the next season. They already made the decision Phillips is not staying, bro. I mean, that's just pure speculation. I don't really think they've made that decision yet. Yeah, I don't think Ramsey's against playing safety. I think Ramsey's even said like he likes to move around. I don't know if he wants to play maybe full-time safety. Where you see Shadur Sanders going? I actually don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Shadur drops, which would suck for the Dolphins because I think he would. I think if you're the Dolphins, you want as many quarterbacks to go before 13. It is speculation, but everything here is. Well, yeah, of course, but I'm just saying you're saying they already made the decision. I'm just saying it's not as likely. You're making it sound like it's a fact. That's the difference. Thoughts on Willie Gay? I don't know. I didn't love him when he came out of, what was it, Mississippi State? I'd have to watch how he played recently. Oh no, you definitely have to consider the injury stuff with Phillips. I think this year will tell it all. I think that's why I think Phillips can go in either direction because this year will be huge for him. If he stays healthy, I would say there's a decent chance he comes back. If he doesn't stay healthy, yeah, he's probably gone. I think Chubb, no matter what, like stays healthy, doesn't stay healthy, there's still a decent chance he's gone. You're good, Scum. Yeah, I do think Ramsey, that's kind of like the thought process with Ramsey is that when you have these guys that they can move to safety down the line, and he's also a guy that can play nickel and outside. And the Dolphins need as much help as they can in the secondary. But answer your question, Grant. The film breakdowns this week will just be depending on who they sign in free agency. Like Monday will probably be a mock draft, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, like literally every day, whenever they like sign someone or it's like reported they sign someone, you know, I'll probably make a video on them. And then draft videos, let me see, who do I have? I have a few players already like made that are like members only right now, so those will probably just get posted when I have like no free agent videos to make. Like I just made a Jalen Conyers video. That will be out this week. Who else do I have that's members only? Xavier Watts. Potentially Damian Martinez, Marcus Yards. Those are players I've already made videos on. Just posted Charles Grant today. What did you do on the? I'm just wondering what to do. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options to do for both sides of the line. Sure, they have multiple options in place. Who's my number one free agent target? Oof. Actually, don't know who it would be. Hold on, let me look at some names here. Because my number one trade target is Michael Mayer. My number one free agent target, it really just depends on price for like, I'm looking at interior line right now, and it really just depends on like the price, like of like Will Fries, Aaron Banks, James Daniels, like out of those guys, like who become like if one of them comes like way cheaper than the others, like I really don't have any crazy preference there. And I really would like Jamien Sherwood. If you can get Jamien Sherwood on like a Jordan Brooks styles contract and he doesn't get anything crazy, like that's something I would heavily consider as well. I think he's a good player, but he might break the bank. I'm just not trying to break the bank. That's the problem. By the way, thanks for the Kader vid. Did you see my comment on your vid? I probably did. Let me see. Sometimes I can't remember. Yeah, oh yeah. Either way. Oh yeah. Does who gets the credit and stuff like that with like people getting promoted. I do think like some of the people scouting, it's probably, to be fair, multiple different people, not just like one person, because people usually have different areas. They may go bargain. I don't expect the Dolphins to be very active. Yeah. Last year they weren't. I can't remember exactly, but I don't think on Monday, I think they literally was just Anthony Walker, right? It was Anthony Walker, and then in the coming days, it started being like Brewer and Brooks. So I do think they will be active, but I don't think they're going to break the bank. I think similar to last year is their plan as well. What would you give it from Mayer? I think a day 3 pick. I think the Dolphins have a lot of picks in that range of 100 to 150. They have a lot of picks. Like I would give up one of those picks for Mayer. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see if there's anything else I need to talk about. Yeah, I think Will Campbell and Armand Membeau, with how they tested, have a decent chance of being gone. And those are really the only O linemen I think I would consider at 13 anyways. Talked about Donovan Jackson. Talked about that. I don't think I ever talked about Jalen Knoll, but we can talk about him later. Iowa State receiver. I really liked his tape. He tested insane. He'll probably go high. I've seen people put Matthew Golden as wide receiver 1. Honestly, I'm not that mad about it. I'm a huge Matthew Golden fan. We didn't really talk about corners, though. I think the Dolphins could go big at corner in free agency. Like Byron Murphy, I'm a huge fan I was a huge fan of Murphy coming out of Washington. He might get paid a lot though, so I don't know if they're gonna go after him. I know there's players like Brandon Stevens who was from I think from the Ravens, so he has that that familiarity with Weaver. There's some other names out there that I could see getting paid, like Trevarius Ward. I think they'll probably go after some corners here. I don't know who exactly, but they'll probably get someone in there. Trying to find some names here. I talked about Asante Samuel Jr. earlier. If they want to go after like an injured player. Mike Hughes, maybe, I guess. Are you going to trade down in next mock? It's pretty revealing. I haven't really decided what I'm probably not going to trade down in the next one. I think I'm going to wait till after free agency to do like more like in depth with the mock drafts, because this Monday will be like the last one before free agency. So I'll probably do like one more regular one, and then after that, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna kind of go crazy with it. But yeah, that's what I want to talk about. So thank you guys for watching. Excited for tomorrow. Yeah, it's time. We're here. This is where the new Dolphins. This is where basically this is where the offseason starts getting crazy, because a lot of teams are making decisions. New Dolphins on the way, and then this will set the tone for the draft, which is my favorite part of the year. So if you guys would, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe.